Let's take a look at one more example. As we look at the expression in example 10, 15x squared minus 2y squared minus 10x squared y plus 3y, we go through the usual steps. We check for a GCF, but 15, 2, 10, 3 don't have any. Not every term has an x. Not every term has a y. There is no greatest common factor. So we could say, okay, well, but there are 4 terms, so maybe we should try grouping. And as we look at our first 2 terms, you see there don't really have a GCF. I suppose you could factor out a 1, 15x squared minus 2y squared, just to say you did something. You can factor out a minus y out of the second group because they both have a y, and you want to change those signs to match. You're left with 10x squared plus 3 once you factor the y out. And now we're in a bit of trouble because the binomial in this parenthesis is not the same as the binomial in the second parenthesis. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means we can't continue because this isn't a common factor anymore. You can't factor it out. There's no fudging it. You just can't do anything. You could say, okay, but what does this mean I'm done? Well, no, you're not done because this isn't technically factored. This is a subtraction problem, not a multiplication problem. Well, why did this happen? What went wrong? Well, what went wrong is we were a little bit fast with what we did. We forgot to check if the outer product is the same as the inner product. If we multiply the 2 outside terms, 15x squared and 3y, we will be left with 45x squared y. That's certainly not what we get when we multiply the 2 inside terms. We have 20x squared y cubed. They're definitely not the same thing. So what does that mean? Well, if you remember, we said that if those are the same, you could factor by grouping. Well, what if they're not the same? Well, if they're not the same, then maybe you can't factor by grouping. And as you saw there, you're stuck. You didn't really get anywhere with that attempt. Now, here's a little caveat, and that is that just because it didn't work out doesn't mean we can't do something to make it work out. See, we are technically allowed to rearrange our terms. You can move things around. For example, I could switch 15x squared and 2y squared, right? Negative 2y squared. I can move terms around. It's just order of addition. Doesn't matter in which order I do it. And maybe if I move things around the right way, then the outer and the inner products will match. I just have to find the right combination. Now, there's an easy trick to doing it, and that is you order your terms in order from lowest to highest coefficient or highest to lowest. So in this case, with not worrying about the sign. So in this case, 15 is the highest and 2 is the lowest number, right? And the 10 and 3 are the middle 2. You want the highest and the lowest to be on the outside and the 2 middle ones on the inside, or vice versa. You want to match those. If the products still don't work, then there's nothing you can do. But maybe they will. So let's do this. Let's take the minus 2y squared. Let's move it all the way to the end so that it can be on the outside. Then we have 15x squared minus 10x squared y plus 3y minus 2y squared. We just take this 2y squared, we move it to the end. Now notice if we check our product, the outer product is negative 30x squared y squared, And so's the inner one, right? Negative 30x squared and y times y, once they are the same. It worked. If this didn't work, nothing works, and you would just say the problem can't be factored, the expression can't be factored. But because this did work, we can now confidently continue, and we can factor out, let's see, 15 and 10, we can factor out a 5. They also both have an x squared, leaving us 3 minus 2y. And we could factor out a positive y, also leaving us a 3 minus 2y. Ooh, 3 minus 2y, there you are. Now we have our binomial common factor that we can factor out, and we're left with 3 minus 2y times 5x squared plus y. And so there we go. What you should learn from this example is if your outer and inner products don't match, you may be able to rearrange your terms and to make them match. And the way that you should rearrange them is to put your coefficients from highest to lowest absolute value.